Ah, I'm back. We're back. I guess I didn't really go anywhere. It's been 2 days, but it's been a little bit since we talked about basketball. So let's do that. Run the intro.
Uh, yeah. Okay, good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's the guy you should believe in. Dropping heat like every season. Underdog like Willie Beeman. Classic like Dom singing. Blasting like bombs ringing.
Okay, so welcome back. Hoops and Hops episode 4. I think it's 4. That feels right. 4. Anyways, I had all these cool notes that I was going to go through with the Celtics series, but none of them ended up mattering because the Pacers got swept. So the Celtics and the Pacers played 4 basketball games, and Tyrese Halliburton was hurt for 2 of them. Jason Tatum didn't win Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Jaylen Brown did, rightfully so. And we'll get to the finals appearance in a little bit because there's something to be said about it, but we need to set the stage first. I was originally going to make a video previewing and talking about the early part of this Dallas and Timberwolves series. And then I had to stop in my tracks because everything changed through the first 2 games. I thought, okay, they dropped game 1 and it's fine. They're going to come back game 2, respond as they should, and they didn't. And I was like, okay, they're down 2-0. It's fine. They're going to go to Dallas and sweep. And then come back. Series is tied 2-2. It's best of 3. I was wrong about that. Well, almost wrong about that. They split. And I don't know what to say. I am dumbfounded. This is not the team that we watched in the first 2 rounds. They played with a level of disdain and anger and aggressiveness and just swagger. The Timberwolves, that is, through versus Phoenix, and then versus who they play in the second round? The Nuggets, obviously. Anyways, I was so surprised. I kept waiting for the Timberwolves to get a game, and they just didn't. And now they have. In game 4 in Dallas, they steal one on the road and make the series 3-1. Obviously, the question is, can the Timberwolves come back down 3-0? The immediate answer is obviously not, right? But there was a shift last night, and I think it's really important. Karl-Anthony Towns finally showed up for a basketball game. Believe it or not, Carl, this is your job. And it's kind of the most important part of the year. And you might be screwing up history if you don't get your act together. But he did last night. He had 5 points in the first half and then came out and had 20, but accompanied that with 6 personal fouls. How he manages to do this, I have no clue. I know the Timberwolves are a physical team, but he picks up at least 2 to 3 fouls, at the minimum 2, usually 3. Stupid fouls. And he's not the answer for Minnesota. If Anthony Edwards is supposed to be the next Michael Jordan or Dwayne Wade, I can tell you one thing. Karl-Anthony Towns is not Scottie Pippen, nor is he old Shaq or even LeBron. Way too inconsistent, way too fruity. And yes, I mean that kind of fruity, but also fruity in the sense that he's just an idiot. Like everything he does, you just sit there in bewilderment of what is he doing? What are you doing? Do you understand the situation you're in? But we have to give him some props for game 4. He came out and he managed to fill the stat sheet with 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 25 points, and again, those 6 personal fouls, shooting 4 for 5 for 3. And I think he went perfect in the second half, 9 for 13 field goal percentage in 30 minutes. A great game. And honestly, it's funny because you get mad when you watch him foul out of the game, but honestly, there was a sigh of relief, I felt like, from just generally from the team. I had a sigh of relief when he fouled out in a way, because it meant we got to see Naz Reid. And I think Naz Reid is the answer going forward. When they had to sit Cat because he had 5 fouls and Naz was playing and they were playing with that smaller lineup, there's more energy, there's more aggressiveness, there's more switchability on defense, and you don't have to worry about someone picking up a foul every 5 seconds. It's a much cleaner, quicker, consistent game. Minnesota, I beg you, please sit Karl Anthony Towns in long stretches of the fourth quarter. Let him dominate in the third. Let him come out and have a big moment. Then sit him. And if you have to play him, if you feel like you need to play him in the fourth quarter to close, I guess. But still, those fourth quarter minutes where the energy is supposed to be high, Naz Reid needs to be playing. Rudy Gobert, I think, honestly, has been pretty darn good this series. A couple years ago, we thought he was unplayable in the playoffs. We all remember the Terrence Mann series. Boy, do I remember it as a Jazz fan. But he's been pretty darn good. And there was he just seemed pissed off last night, which was fantastic for Minnesota. Anthony Edwards didn't quite seem pissed off, but seemed like he needed to prove something, which is rare for a 22-year-old who doesn't really need to prove anything. He doesn't have a pedigree to lean on. There isn't a legacy riding on it. He's still building it and creating it, and in the very early stages of it. But watching the game, it felt like there was something for him to prove. And on the other side of the coin, Kyrie Irving, it was until last night undefeated in closeout games. That changes. Luka, who has been playing professional basketball since he was 13, honestly looked scared of the moment, which doesn't feel right coming out of my mouth just from the get-go, but he looked scared of the moment. He hit some big shots, and it's odd because we saw what he did in game 3. Why did he run from the ball? It kind of felt like in this game. And Kyrie, it kind of has felt like spent everything he had on the first game 1, where he came out and torched the Timberwolves. And then everyone said, okay, Ant was talking. They came out and responded, and then the Timberwolves will respond. But they've won despite that, just by being able to control the fourth quarter. The Timberwolves are young, they're still figuring out how to finish, and last night was a good step. To bring this whole thing together, Luka's banged up, Derrick Jones Jr. is now banged up, Maxi Kleber's on his way back, sort of. He played, but he was kind of a shell of himself. Derek Lively quite possibly could miss game 5 tomorrow. Daniel Gafford is going to come back down to earth at some point. And who's their last guy? Jaden Hardy. I don't know where he came from, but role players play better at home. And we'll see what he does in game 4, but that's a huge pop off the bench, 13 points, I think, in the last 2 games. That probably won't continue. PJ Washington hasn't looked the same since the Clippers series, and even the latter end of the Clippers series. Obviously, he had that big shot to finish the series off, shot free throws, but he hasn't been himself in this series. They've simply just won the game in the fourth quarter. They've been on autopilot for 3 quarters and then turn it on just enough to get the game done. But they're not going to be able to do that in game 5 if Minnesota keeps up the intensity. If Minnesota keeps up the intensity, all those guys being banged up, and the doubt starts to creep in. You lose game 4 and you say, it's an aberration, we'll be fine, we'll be back in game 5. But then all of a sudden, you're down 15 going into halftime. Minnesota hasn't played great at home, but anything's possible at home. Charles said it. If you're Minnesota, you got to take this one game at a time. And it's got to be body blows. You got to really let the doubt start to creep in for them. And when you get momentum, you step on their throat and you don't back down. You can't do what you did against the Suns, and you're not going to, unfortunately, get the same sort of reaction from the refs. Not reaction from the refs, but you're not going to, the crybaby Jamal Murray isn't going to affect the entirety of the Nuggets like he did. Luka, this is him. He's just going to whine. He's going to try and draw fouls. The last foul on Karl Anthony Towns, and then the one where he runs directly into Anderson, that's just who he is. It's not, him crying's not going to throw them off. That's the kind of the team identity in a way, because that's who Luka is. But you have to, this was a good way to start planting the seeds of doubt. And if you can do it in game 5 and push it to a game 6 going back to Dallas, then they start to overextend, try and hit home runs from the get-go and play hero ball. And they're going to be dinged up the longer this series goes. If you can get game 5, I think there's a solid chance you get to game 6. And obviously, like I said, it's one game at a time. If you can get to game 6, then I don't see why you can't push it to a game 7. And for teams that were down 3-0 and that make it to a game 7, they win more often than they lose. 4 teams that have made it to game 7 after being down 3-0 have lost. 8 teams that have made it to game 7 after being down 3-0 have won. You have to take this a game at a time and plant those seeds of doubt along the way. It has to be full throttle the whole time. And sure, you're going to be spent and you're going to be battle tested for sure for the finals. But I'll tell you what, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse Celtics aren't going to know what hit them. If they were in close games with Indiana, even without Tyrese Halliburton, sure, they pulled them out. But if you're able to weather this kind of storm, whether it's Dallas or the Timberwolves, the West has been carnage in the playoffs. I think the champion will come out of the West either way. So, to close, that sets the stage well for the Celtics finals appearance, the second one in 3 years, I believe. As I said, it's kind of a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse appearance. They beat a Heat team without Jimmy Butler, who they have fallen to multiple times, and they're lucky that he wasn't there. Then they play in the second round. Who did they play in the second round? I don't even know who they played in the second round. That's how bad the Eastern Conference playoffs have been. They played the Cavs. They played the Cavs in the second round without Donovan Mitchell for 2 games. And then they played the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton for 2 games. Outside of the Celtics, I mean, for the Cavs and the Pacers series, it was the same storyline. And obviously the Pacers series was a close sweep. It was a sweep, but it was a close sweep. The Pacers were in every one of those games, and it makes you question, if Tyrese Halliburton was healthy, would we be seeing them push it to a game 6 or 7? I don't know, but I don't have as much confidence as I did way earlier in the year in the Celtics. I said by game 20 that we'd see the Celtics in the NBA Finals, and that was just kind of the general consensus from everyone in the media, and we were right. They're here, but it feels like impending doom, and if they do pull it out, it's because whoever comes out of the West is tattered, beaten, and broken from the carnage they had to go through to get to the finals. We all thought that the Timberwolves just won the NBA Finals when they beat the Nuggets. We thought that was the finals matchup. This could potentially be the finals matchup if they're able to make this a series. If Dallas comes out the other side, I really don't know which way to go, whether it's the Celtics or the Mavericks, because my immediate reaction is Dallas, because that means that Kyrie picked it up, or at the bare minimum, Luka was able to figure out how to will them to a win, and he can certainly do that against the Celtics. On the other side of the coin, like I said, if they're battered, beaten, and broken, could it be another Mickey Mouse series for the Celtics where they're just all healthy and have so much firepower? I don't know. Ultimately, with the Timberwolves Dallas series, I'm excited for game 5 tomorrow. Back at home, what is Minnesota going to do? Are the little seeds of doubt that were planted in game 4 that we saw as the gas tank run out on Kyrie Irving? What is it? What are we going to see? Are we going to get a full game from Karl Anthony Towns? Will they play Naz Reid in the fourth quarter? I have no idea. And I'm kind of done making predictions for the series because it has blown me away. And I think if I do, it'll just mess with fate, sort of. We'll see what happens. And I'll probably be making another video saying that I overreacted to game 4 and that Dallas was okay the whole time and we'll be on to the finals. Or maybe, just maybe, we're going to see what feels like the impossible happen. And Anthony Edwards rise to the occasion and will a Timberwolves team that shouldn't be here to the finals. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Devin, and you're watching Hoops and Hops on Buffet Sports. If you want to see more of me, or just of our other shows, you can catch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at buffet.sports. We post every day, if not twice a day. We're back on that schedule, and we're deep into the NBA playoffs. Finals are impending. The NBA or the NFL offseason is heating up a little bit. We are just under 100 days from our first NFL game, and I think we can all agree we miss football. I'm excited for this year for the Broncos and to just get to see more football because it's America's sport. It's America's pastime now. So, ciao.